The sun peeked through the massive glass windows of the hospital room, casting golden stripes across the sleek, polished floor. Outside, the city moved on as if nothing had changed, but inside, time had stopped. Alex Sinclair, the man who had everything, wealth, power, influence, sat rigidly on the edge of the hospital bed. His perfectly tailored suit felt heavier than usual, like it weighed down not just his body, but his mind. Today, nothing about him felt normal. The doctor stepped in, her expression calm, almost rehearsed, but the words she carried were anything but ordinary. "Mr. Sinclair," she began, clearing her throat, "I need you to sit down. You have only 2 days to live." Alex froze, the words hanging in the air, heavier than any contract or boardroom verdict he had ever faced. 2 days. Just 48 hours. He wanted to laugh, to dismiss it, to wave it off like a bad joke. But the tremor in his hands betrayed him. 2 days? He finally croaked, voice brittle. That's impossible. The nurse shifted nervously in the corner. "Sir, the tests are conclusive. There's no margin of error." Alex leaned back, trying to absorb the weight of his mortality. For the first time in decades, no power, no money, no connections could save him. The world outside, once so familiar, suddenly felt alien. Memories flashed unbidden through his mind, boardroom victories, business deals, empty celebrations. He had built empires, yes. But for what? Who would remember him in 2 days? Who would care when he was gone? He tried to speak again, to ask for more time, for a miracle. But the words caught in his throat. His chest tightened, heart hammering against ribs that suddenly felt too small to contain his panic. I can't. There has to be some mistake," he whispered. But the doctor shook her head, firm, unwavering. Outside the window, the city thrummed with life. Cars honked, people laughed, unaware of the empire ruler staring down the inevitable. Alex, the man who had controlled everything around him, now faced the one truth he could not command. He closed his eyes, tasting the bitter sting of fear. The funeral planners, the lawyers, the family, the vultures waiting to pounce. They would arrive soon, eager to claim what he had built. And he had only 2 days to live. Alex opened his eyes slowly. The world felt different. Colors sharper, sounds louder, every detail painfully vivid. The life he had ignored, the people he had taken for granted, the moments he had wasted, they all pressed against him like an invisible weight. For the first time in his life, Alex Sinclair felt utterly, completely powerless. And as the doctor quietly stepped aside, leaving him alone with his thoughts, the clock ticked mercilessly toward the 2 days that would change everything. The moment Alex left the hospital, the world outside his mansion had already begun shifting. His home, a sprawling fortress of marble and steel, stood silent in the afternoon sun. Yet inside, the air was thick with anticipation. Anticipation not for his life, but for his absence. His family had gathered quietly at first, pretending normalcy, yet every glance, every slight smirk carried unspoken calculations. His estranged sister, Victoria, adjusted her designer dress and whispered to her husband, "It won't be long now. We just need to make sure we're on top." Alex's cousin, a man with a penchant for drama and loud suits, paced the grand hallway. 2 days. 2 days and we're in charge," he muttered under his breath, imagining the titles, the properties, the luxury cars that would soon bear his name. The funeral planner arrived next, a tall woman with a clipboard and a voice as smooth as silk. "Mr. Sinclair's death. Unavoidable, I presume," she said, eyes flicking briefly to the family. "We should begin immediate preparations. The service can be simple or extravagant, depending on your preferences." Alex, still reeling from the hospital, had no idea that the meeting he would have loved to avoid was already underway. The planner continued, completely unaware that the man himself had yet to digest the weight of his own mortality. "Sir, do you prefer gold or silver caskets?" she asked. Her tone was polite, yet there was a flicker of excitement in her eyes, a subtle hunger for efficiency, for control over the ceremony that marked the end of someone else's life. Alex stared at her, incredulous. "Diamond," he muttered, half in disbelief, half in jest. The room paused. A laugh, awkward and nervous, echoed from his lawyer. "Sir, I think that might be outside budget considerations," he said, scratching the back of his neck. The funeral planner raised an eyebrow. "Diamond, we could discuss customized options," she said carefully, sensing she might have stepped into uncharted territory. In the corner, the family whispered. The siblings argued softly, carefully choosing words that sounded like sympathy, but reeked of strategy. The air was thick with tension, half grief, half greed. Alex's youngest niece, barely 12, tugged at her mother's sleeve. "Mom, why are they talking about caskets when Uncle Alex isn't even gone?" The question hung in the air, almost comic, almost cruel. But no one answered. No one could. The truth was far too uncomfortable. Alex wandered the mansion, each hallway echoing with the silent ambitions of those around him. Portraits of ancestors stared down with solemn faces, seemingly judging his life, or perhaps mocking his sudden vulnerability. He paused before a large painting of his father, a man of stern expression. 2 days, Alex muttered aloud. 48 hours. That's it. The words felt absurd, a lifetime of control, a world of influence reduced to a mere 48 hours. Outside, the garden awaited preparation for memorial announcements. Gardeners moved with precision, laying fresh flowers, trimming bushes, arranging wreaths as if rehearsing for a ceremony that had yet to take place. Every petal, every leaf seemed to whisper a reminder of mortality. The phone rang incessantly. Business partners called, colleagues texted, journalists probed. Emails pinged relentlessly, each one carrying news Alex no longer had time to act upon. Even in his absence, the world demanded attention. But attention for what? The empire was safe, for now. The man who had built it, however, fragile. Humor found its way in small, absurd moments. His cousin tripped over a rug, sprawling into a vase, spilling water across the marble floor. "The gods themselves weep for him," he joked, half in fear, half in bravado. The family stifled laughs, unsure whether to cry or mock. In the library, Alex's lawyer spread documents across the oak table. Wills, trust funds, insurance papers. "You need to make decisions, sir. Now," he said nervously, glancing at Alex, who was still trying to process reality. "There's a window to influence distribution, and your approval matters." Alex sank into the leather chair. He looked at the documents, at the family calculating silently, at the funeral planner's poised readiness, and a wave of realization hit him. Death had turned his world upside down in a way no merger, no lawsuit, no boardroom battle ever could. His thoughts drifted to simpler things, memories of a childhood long buried beneath ambition and wealth. The laughter of friends, long-forgotten promises, faces of those he had ignored. And in that reflection he realized just how empty power could feel when confronted by inevitability. Night fell. The mansion lights flickered to life, casting long shadows along the hallways where whispers of planning and subtle scheming continued. Alex sat quietly, absorbing the surreal theater around him, the funeral plans, the discussions, the barely hidden greed. The world outside might never notice, but inside he felt a profound shift stirring within. And in the silence of his thoughts, one question echoed louder than any fear or anxiety. If I have only 2 days, what does it mean to truly live? The next morning, the mansion awoke under a pale sunlight, its marble floors gleaming, corridors silent except for the occasional footstep of staff preparing for what was expected to be a somber, controlled day. Outside, the city hummed with life, oblivious to the drama unfolding in one of its tallest towers of power. Alex Sinclair sat in his private study, staring at the city skyline. The weight of his diagnosis pressed against his chest like a stone. He had lived a life of control, influence, and command. But now, every decision felt meaningless. 2 days. That was all the time he had. 2 days for regret, reflection, and perhaps redemption. A knock at the grand double doors interrupted his thoughts. A maid, young and nervous, stepped inside. "Sir, there's a girl at the front gate. She says she has water for you." Alex's brow furrowed. "Water? For me?" he scoffed. "Tell her this is a business building, not a charity. Send her away." The maid hesitated, sensing the unusual insistence in the girl's tone. "Sir, she says it's urgent." Before Alex could respond further, a commotion arose at the mansion entrance. Through the large glass doors, a small figure appeared. A young girl, perhaps 17 or 18, her clothes worn and simple, a battered jug clutched tightly in her hands. Dust coated her shoes and her hair fell untamed across her forehead. Alex stood abruptly, anger bubbling within him. "Who in the world?" The girl stepped forward, confident in her purpose despite her humble appearance. "Sir, I brought water. Please, just a sip." Alex blinked, incredulous. "You? What? Do you think I drink water from strangers?" "Guards!" his voice thundered. The girl didn't flinch. She smiled faintly, almost teasingly, and said, "It's not just water, sir. It's hope." Alex froze. Hope? Who was this girl? And what did she know about hope? The staff exchanged uneasy glances, unsure if they should intervene. The funeral planner, arriving early to organize seating arrangements, whispered to the maid, "Who is she?" Alex, in a mix of disbelief and amusement, crossed the room to the doors. The girl didn't move, holding out the jug with hands that were small, worn, but steady. "Sir, you need to drink." I don't know why, but it matters," she said softly. Alex laughed bitterly. "I don't need your water. I have the finest wines, the purest springs, the best everything money can buy. I don't need some street girl bringing me a jug." The girl's eyes sparkled with quiet determination. "Money can't fix everything, sir. Maybe not what's about to happen." For a moment, Alex's arrogance faltered. 2 days. That was all. And yet here was someone, a stranger, showing courage he hadn't seen in decades. With a sigh, he waved his hand dismissively. "Very well, let me see it." The girl's face lit up with a faint, almost mischievous smile. "Thank you, sir." As she poured a small amount into a crystal glass from her jug, Alex watched, intrigued despite himself. The water shimmered under the sunlight streaming through the doors, ordinary yet somehow extraordinary. "Drink," she urged gently. Alex hesitated, then took the glass. The first sip was nothing special, just water. And yet, something stirred within him, a faint warmth, a subtle clarity, a reminder of the simple things he had ignored all his life. You're not ordinary, are you?" Alex said, trying to mask his awe. The girl laughed softly, a sound so pure and unrestrained it echoed in the vast halls. "No, sir, I'm just human, like you." Maybe we all need to remember that. And with that, a strange camaraderie began to form, a tension between two worlds. Alex, the untouchable CEO, and Mia, the girl from nowhere, carrying nothing but water and a wisdom that made the richest man feel small. Humor crept in naturally. When Alex asked, "Where did you even learn to deliver water to a mansion?" she quipped, "Practice makes perfect. Besides, mansions are thirsty too." The irony wasn't lost on him, and a faint chuckle escaped, breaking the heavy air. For the first time since his diagnosis, Alex felt alive. Mia followed him through the mansion, unnoticed by the plotting family and staff, her presence an anomaly that refused to be ignored. She commented on everything: the absurdity of gold-plated doorknobs, the frozen silence of the staff, the endless portraits staring down with judgmental eyes. "Sir, do you ever laugh in this house?" she asked innocently, tilting her head. Alex smirked, a rare expression, half bitter, half amused. "Not since, well, maybe not at all." Mia's simple honesty sparked something inside him. Memories of childhood laughter, schoolyard jokes, and quiet evenings long forgotten rushed back. Humor, he realized, had been absent in his life. Not just absent, but deliberately erased in pursuit of power. "Then we better fix that," Mia said, her tone half serious, half playful, as she poured him another glass. 2 days, right? Let's make them count." Alex looked at her, startled. How did this girl know? How did she seem untouchable by fear, by death? And yet, her presence carried the undeniable truth. Life was still here, if only he dared to embrace it. Outside, the city continued its indifferent rhythm. Inside the mansion, a storm had begun. A storm of laughter, of challenge, of reflection, and of change. Alex Sinclair, facing his final hours, had encountered something or someone that might just rewrite the rest of his story. And so, with a jug of water in her hands and courage in her eyes, Mia entered not just the mansion but the fortress of Alex's life, forever altering the course of 2 fleeting days that would change everything. The mansion had settled into an uneasy rhythm, but inside a storm brewed. Alex Sinclair, the man who controlled empires, found himself helpless against the simplest of forces. A girl with a jug of water and a voice that refused to obey the rules of his world. Mia moved through the hallways with an ease that startled Alex. Where he saw opulence, she saw absurdity. Where he saw order, she saw life waiting to be embraced. "Sir," she said, brushing dust off a velvet armchair as if it were a crime scene, "do you really need 6 chandeliers in one room? The ceiling looks fine without them." Alex stared. "Excuse me?" She shrugged, utterly unconcerned with his disbelief. "Just saying. It's excessive." Humor, sharp and unrefined, broke the tension that had been suffocating him for 2 days. Alex felt something stir in his chest, a mix of amusement and annoyance, the kind of emotion he hadn't felt in years. He leaned against a marble pillar, arms crossed. "And who taught you to speak to CEOs like this? Beggars? Street rats?" Mia smiled faintly. "Street rats have better manners than some boardroom types." "Oh, don't worry, sir. I mean, no disrespect." Alex wanted to be angry, but he couldn't. The girl's presence was disarming. She walked past him, humming softly, arranging a vase of flowers by the window. The sunlight caught the water in her jug, reflecting prisms across the polished floor. "You're strange," he muttered. "I'm rich, powerful, untouchable, and yet you walk in like you own the place." "Maybe I do," she said lightly. "Or maybe you just don't know how to own life yet." Those words, simple as they were, struck him harder than any boardroom defeat. Alex realized the truth he had long ignored. Power meant nothing if life itself slipped away unappreciated. They moved to the library, where shelves of books towered like monuments to intellect and ambition. Mia ran her fingers along the spines, occasionally stopping to lift a title and glance at Alex. "Do you ever read these?" she asked. "Do I look like I have time?" he shot back, though a faint blush betrayed him. "Exactly my point," she said, smirking. 2 days, sir. That's all the time you've got." Alex sank into a leather chair, feeling the weight of her words. He realized humor and truth could coexist, and that in her simple courage lay a mirror for the life he had squandered. Hours passed like moments as the two walked the mansion. Mia's presence was a puzzle. She questioned, teased, challenged, yet always with kindness. Alex found himself laughing at things he hadn't noticed before: the absurdity of a gold-plated doorknob, the stiff smiles of his staff, the ridiculousness of his own worries. Yet, beneath the laughter, tension simmered. Alex's body reminded him of his mortality, his mind wrestled with regret, and Mia's calm confidence pressed against his ego in ways no one else could. She paused before a large portrait of Alex's father. "Did he teach you anything about life, or just how to win?" she asked quietly. Alex's jaw tightened. Memories flooded him, stern lectures, cold dinners, the silent pressure to succeed. He swallowed, realizing the weight of lessons learned too late. "Winning doesn't mean living," he admitted, almost to himself. Mia's eyes softened. "Exactly. That's why I'm here. Maybe not to save you, but to remind you that life is still worth something." They sat in silence for a while, the kind that didn't need words. The mansion, once a fortress of control, now felt like a stage for revelation. Outside, the world moved, but inside, Alex began to see the contours of a life he could still embrace. Humor continued to break through. When Alex tried to pour a glass of water himself, he spilled half over the polished floor. Mia laughed so hard she doubled over. "2 days, sir. We need precision," she teased. "Precision? I've mastered the world, and I can't even pour water without making a mess," he retorted, grinning despite himself. As evening fell, the mansion took on a softer glow. Lamps illuminated corners previously forgotten, revealing small details Alex had ignored for decades. Mia wandered, touching objects as if discovering them for the first time. "Why do you care about all this?" Alex asked suddenly. "You don't even belong here." She turned to him, calm and unwavering. "Belonging isn't about wealth or titles, sir. It's about being alive. And you need to remember what that feels like." Alex's mind swirled with questions. Who was this girl? How did she carry such clarity and courage? And yet, he felt drawn to her honesty, her humor, and the light she cast into his dark, looming hours. Hours stretched into night. They moved to the balcony overlooking the city. Lights twinkled like stars, the world carrying on without regard for the tiny tragedies and revelations in one mansion. 2 days, Alex whispered. "What would you do if you had 2 days?" Mia smiled softly. "I'd live like every second mattered, even the small ones. Laugh, talk, cry, remember the people who truly matter." Alex considered this, staring at the city below, feeling a mix of regret and hope. The clock ticked on relentlessly, yet for the first time he didn't fear it. He realized that life was not measured by control or wealth, but by moments, by connections, and by the courage to feel. The night grew colder, but the warmth of their conversations, the humor, the challenges, and the truths they shared lit the mansion from within. Alex understood now. Mia had not only brought water, she had brought perspective. And as they returned inside, a strange sense of anticipation filled the air. 2 days remained. Mortality still loomed. But Alex Sinclair, the man who had mastered everything else, began to understand what it meant to truly live, even in the face of the inevitable. Outside, the city slept unaware, while inside, the clash of worlds, rich and poor, powerful and humble, fear and courage, had set the stage for a transformation neither could yet fully comprehend. The sun rose slowly over the mansion, casting a warm glow across the polished floors and expansive gardens. Alex Sinclair awoke with a strange heaviness in his chest, not from illness, but from the weight of the realization that 2 days had already passed without meaning. Mia, already awake, had moved quietly through the mansion, arranging a pitcher of water by the windowsill. She hummed softly, a sound that reminded Alex of mornings long forgotten, of simplicity, of life before power had consumed him. "Morning, sir," she said lightly, noticing him stirring. "Time to drink, and maybe start living." Alex groaned. "I am living. I have power, influence, money." "Money can't buy a sunrise like this," Mia interrupted, gesturing to the garden where dew shimmered on the grass. "Or the chance to laugh without worrying about contracts and meetings." Alex stared at her, a faint smile breaking through the tension. He tried to resist the warmth in her words, but it seeped into him anyway. Breakfast was simple, yet the atmosphere was alive with humor. Mia had prepared toast, fresh fruit, and coffee, not fine china or caviar. Alex struggled with the simplicity. He attempted to pour coffee only to spill it onto his crisp shirt. Mia laughed, the sound pure and contagious. "2 days, sir. We need precision," she teased. Alex wiped the spill, chuckling despite himself. "Precision. Never my strong suit," he admitted. Humor, long absent, was returning, uninvited but welcome. The day progressed with small acts that changed the mansion's energy. Alex walked the halls with Mia, helping the staff, speaking to the gardeners, laughing at minor mishaps. Each interaction, each human moment, chipped away at the walls he had built around himself. Mia's humor remained unrelenting. "You call this a mansion?" she asked, pointing to a portrait of Alex as a child. "This is like a museum. No one even smiles here." Alex paused, realizing how empty his wealth had truly been. "Perhaps I forgot what mattered," he said quietly, voice tinged with regret. They moved to the study where Alex began writing letters to estranged friends, apologizing for harsh words, cold actions, and years of absence. Mia watched him, proud but quiet, letting him discover his own path. "It's not about death, sir," she said softly. "It's about what you leave behind while you're still alive. Do that right, and you'll feel richer than any bank account could make you." Alex's eyes misted. The girl, barely older than a teenager, held wisdom beyond measure. Her presence was transforming him, teaching him the truth about life, love, and regret in ways no advisor, no business deal, no fortune could. Laughter returned fully when Alex attempted to cook lunch himself, a task he had never mastered. The kitchen quickly descended into chaos. Flour clouds, burnt edges, and spilled sauces. Mia laughed until she could barely stand. This is ridiculous," Alex exclaimed, half frustrated, half amused. "How can anyone live like this and still survive?" "Survive?" Mia teased. "You're doing more than survive, sir. You're learning to live." By afternoon, Alex had taken small walks through the gardens, speaking to the staff, asking questions about their lives, their families, their joys and struggles. Humor, empathy, and humility entered spaces once ruled by fear and authority. Evening came, and with it, reflection. Alex sat on the balcony, overlooking the city that stretched endlessly into the horizon. The skyline, previously a symbol of power, now represented possibility, memory, and fleeting moments he had wasted. Mia stood beside him, jug in hand. "Tomorrow's your final day, sir," she said gently. "What will you do with it?" Alex considered her question deeply. I want to see the people I hurt. I want to say things I never said. I want to live before I leave." Mia smiled faintly. "Then you will. And maybe, just maybe, life has more to give than even you imagined." They walked through the mansion once more, stopping to laugh at old mistakes, to marvel at small beauties, to embrace the present. Alex realized that transformation was not about grand gestures or wealth, but about human connection, authenticity, and courage to face both the world and oneself. Night fell and the mansion glowed under soft lights. Alex and Mia sat by the fireplace, sharing stories of past regrets and quiet hopes for the future. Humor, tears, and reflection intertwined seamlessly, creating a rhythm that felt new, alive, and eternal. Mia poured him a glass of water from her jug, the liquid catching the firelight and glimmering. "One sip, sir," she said. "Remember, it's more than just water." Alex drank, feeling warmth, clarity, and a strange hope he had thought impossible. He looked at Mia, realizing that in 2 days, a stranger had become his guide, his mirror, and perhaps the catalyst for the man he wished to become. Outside, the city slept. Inside, the mansion vibrated with laughter, tears, and revelation. 2 days remained, but Alex Sinclair no longer feared them. Instead, he embraced them, knowing that life, real life, was happening now, with every breath, every smile, and every human connection that remained within his reach. And as the night deepened, one undeniable truth settled over him. In 2 days, everything could change, and he was finally ready to live before it did. Dawn broke over the mansion, the first light spilling across polished marble and manicured gardens, bathing everything in gold. Alex Sinclair stood on the terrace, gazing at the city beyond, feeling a strange calm he hadn't known in decades. 2 days had passed, and in that time, the walls he had built around his life, his heart, and his soul had begun to crumble. Mia appeared silently beside him, jug in hand, as if she had never left the mansion at all. "Morning, sir," she said softly. "Today's the final day." Alex nodded slowly, absorbing the weight of her words. He had faced fear, regret, and mortality itself. He had laughed, cried, and confronted truths he had buried for years. Now, standing at the edge of everything, he realized something he had never known before. Life is not measured in power, money, or control. It is measured in moments, choices, and connections. The mansion slowly came to life around them. Staff moved quietly, but with smiles on their faces. Employees greeted Alex not with fear or respect, but with warmth. His family, once distant and calculating, watched cautiously, sensing a change they could not fully comprehend. Alex turned to Mia. "You changed me," he said quietly. "In 2 days, a stranger taught me what life really is." Mia smiled faintly. "Maybe not taught, maybe reminded. Life is always there. It's just waiting for you to notice." Humor flickered through the tension. Alex attempted to pour water himself from Mia's jug and spilled it slightly on the terrace floor. "I still can't get it right," he muttered. Mia laughed, a sound that seemed to echo across the city skyline. "It doesn't matter, sir. The point is, you're trying." The morning passed with small acts that felt monumental. Alex reconciled with his estranged sister Victoria, spoke honestly with his employees, apologized to those he had wronged, and made gestures of kindness that left everyone around him stunned. Laughter, tears, and conversation intertwined seamlessly, filling the mansion with warmth it had never known. As afternoon approached, a subtle tension returned. Alex's health reminded him of the urgency. 2 days remained. Yet the fear that had consumed him was replaced by acceptance and a strange, fragile hope. Mia led him to the garden where sunlight glimmered on dew-dappled grass. "This is your final stretch, sir. How will you spend it?" Alex breathed deeply, feeling every heartbeat, every moment like a gift. "I will live it fully," he said, voice steady. "I will laugh. I will forgive. I will appreciate what I've ignored for decades. I will love life in every sense." And then a strange, almost miraculous thing happened. Alex drank from the water Mia offered him one last time. ordinary yet extraordinary. The warmth spread through him, a gentle reminder that life was not yet over, that every moment counted, that even endings could bring beginnings. Evening came and the mansion glowed under soft lights. Family and staff gathered, witnessing a man transformed, a man who had embraced humility, courage, and humanity in the face of death. Alex laughed freely, cried openly, and spoke with a sincerity that none had expected, including himself. Mia, standing quietly in the background, watched with a faint smile. Her work was done. The transformation she had sparked, the rebirth of a life once lost in power, fear, and ambition, was complete. As night fell, Alex looked at the skyline one last time. The city lights mirrored stars, infinite possibilities shimmering across the horizon. He had faced death and found life. He had confronted regret and embraced joy. He had met a stranger who had become a mirror, a teacher, a friend, and perhaps even a guardian of his soul. Mia turned to him. "I have to go now," she said softly. "But remember, life is always here waiting for you to notice." Alex wanted to ask her to stay, to explain, to understand who she truly was. But he did not need answers. Her presence had changed him irrevocably. She had brought more than water, she had brought life. She walked away, disappearing quietly into the night, leaving Alex standing alone on the terrace. He watched her go, feeling an unexpected gratitude and peace. The mansion, once cold and lifeless, now pulsed with warmth, laughter, and human connection. Alex smiled at the horizon. 2 days had almost ended, but he was no longer afraid. The clock ticked forward, and he understood now that time was not a prison, it was a canvas. Life was not to be feared, but to be embraced fully, fiercely, and with open heart. And as the city slept, the mansion glimmered under the stars, a silent testament to transformation, courage, humor, and hope. Alex Sinclair, the man who had faced the end and found the beginning, stepped back inside, ready to live every moment remaining, with gratitude, joy, and a newfound understanding of what it truly meant to be alive. Thanks for watching. Please, it will be a great thing if you do subscribe to our channel.